Hey, this is Bill Gross, and this is actually Chad Corbett's Probate Mastery call that we do every Tuesday at 12 o'clock noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time, as far as Probate Mastery program and alumni. Chad, unfortunately, as a personal matter, has been unavailable. He's asked me and Dave to take turns filling in. I've been a coaching student of Chad's since the beginning of my focus in probate about 3 years ago. Actually, 2 years, it'll be 3 years in March. And I can tell you that I took this, even though I had been in real estate a long time, I had decided to research the probate niche, took this coaching program in March of 2019 and went all in. And he challenged me really to be an expert, to go to court, to really learn the business. And as a result of that, the last 2 years have been phenomenal. You check my MLS stats. The last 12 months, I've closed 42 transactions, 30 sales, I think 12 double ends. Built a phenomenal business as a result of really following the plan I developed while taking Chad's program just about 3 years ago. Part of the process is about being a service. And so I'm glad to help. I'm located in Los Angeles, California. I'm in a big market. I try not to train my competitors, but that's part of the business too. But I'm also looking to establish a network of people nationally to help share ideas and network with. So when I was asked to be a substitute teacher on the call, I'm honored to help out and continue this process. I'd love to look forward to working with you guys if I can help. And on the call, we'll take questions. We will, on the course content, I'm taking the course and I think put in practice for the last 3 years. I've also been in on this phone calls regularly since and watched them on a delayed basis. I'm able to role play and handle objections, so I'll share with you how I do it. And I know it's a little different sometimes what Chad does. I can't say I'm a perfect student, but I think I understand his come from and the philosophy. We can talk about mindset, accountability issues if you have them. Love to celebrate wins and share what's working for you. I'm glad to share what's working for me. And anything else, you're on the right call for that. So we have about a little less than an hour today to talk. And I'm really excited to be here and appreciate you guys being on the call today. So I see a bunch of friends. Thank you for checking in. Anybody have any wins you want to celebrate with us or share with us today?
Hey, this is Jay Hawk here from Dallas, Texas. How you doing?
Hey, Hawk, what's up?
Everything is good. It's just closed yesterday on a probate property that was it was outside Dallas. The parents had passed away and they've been selling off the properties since. And so they tapped me to be able to do that for them. So this is the second property I've actually sold for them.
Did you represent the buyer as well as the estate or just the...
No, well, Texas kind of frowns upon that. Can't do that. We can't do that.
You can't do that. Okay, tell me you can. You probably should most of the time. We stay with it. Okay, good. So you listed 2 properties that sold. Fantastic. Now here's the key though. You've got to leverage that for your business.
Yeah.
What we don't want to do is use the listing to get more business, but we want to use our success to get more business. And I'll just share with you guys that while all my lead generation is in the probate space, half my business isn't. Because if it comes to good selling properties, people around me see that success and ask me to help them, investors, other agents, attorneys, and such. So you're going to leverage that success to get more non-probate business. Unless you're too busy, Jay. If you're too busy, then take some time off.
So one of the siblings of the oldest child has referred me to her grandchild who wants to purchase property, another friend on the buyers. So I'm trying to leverage this for more success, like you said. So I'm getting some referrals now, whether I want to keep those or give them off for someone else, depending on the distance of it, and just get a referral fee is negotiable. So I'll count this as a win for this week.
Excellent. Congratulations, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Who else has a win to report today? Hey, Stephanie Willie, see you on the call. What do you want to share with us today?
You know what? The only thing I can say about probates, because I represented a buyer, but they did not get it because it was in multiple offers.
Okay.
So a lot of these probates that are here in LA, especially for the buyers who are looking to buy something, it was so aggressive and they offered above the asking price.
Look, it's a challenging market. Buyer side, I will say I just closed. I don't really work with buyers as a general rule, but through my marketing, I met a guy who's an agent now on my team and an attorney. He wanted me to represent him on the probate because it was a little complicated. And I believe part of why we got it was I developed a relationship with the listing agent and we got our offer accepted. So I don't think that the relationship is enough to get the property, but it's enough to get you closer to the property. And don't give up, and that's pretty easy money. I closed the deal in 3 days or less that I really hadn't put the work in like the might on listing. Part of the process, again, part of the value of the leverage of success. So keep at it, man. Just working with them and offers. I think that on average, when you look at statistics, even the best buyers agents in this market average three offers for every one closing. And I'd say average agents are like 10 to 1. And so you got to look and be somewhere in that range, number one. Number two, apply good fundamentals of real estate to make your offer more acceptable and make sure it's complete and so on. And so that's where I try to, and mention you're a probate expert that's probate and talk about the things you can do and make that listing as you feel comfortable working with you. Good. So I think I mentioned mine was I closed the deal yesterday that I got a probate buyer side, which isn't so common for me. I verified the wiring instructions today, so I got my commission wire. And I will say that as a benefit of the business that I got, I have a very nice listing lead this morning. I'm working for another deal. And that deal's not a probate. If I give a presentation on probate, all of you have an opportunity to establish yourself as experts in your market area. And if you do that, people will be interested in working with you. And as a result, you should get non-probate leads that go along with your probate business. Selena, welcome to call. Hand up. How can I help you?
I had a question for you. You indicated that you did the work that Chad suggested in terms of going to the courthouse. The sophisticated attorneys here, I haven't gone to the courthouse. I have legal experience in another state and I've gone to courthouses many times. There's really not that much going on. It's a quick, if it is a good attorney, it's full authority. What did you gain? I guess my question is, when sitting at the courthouse and watching this, was it just that you were totally unfamiliar with going into a courthouse or?
Of course, COVID's changed a lot of the rules. So whatever that means, where we talk to people across the country, I'm in Los Angeles County, which is the largest probate court in America, as well as probably one was locked down today. So what I can tell you I did from the time I took the training until COVID closed, I went every day to court and I approached it like a real estate agent who might door knock. The probate court calendar started at 8:30. I got there at 7:45, bought a cup of coffee. And if you know Stanley Mosque, it's right at the intersection where the second floor entrance is and the coffee shop. It stood right there. And my goal was to meet people until 8:30. And then I would go in one of the courts to watch a court confirmation sale. So I saw at least one almost every workday for about a year and a half, 2 years. So in that time period, I probably saw, 400, 500 court sales. More than any judge. They see one a week maybe. More than any attorney or real estate agent by far. And so I saw that for 100 certain common mistakes, certain best practices. And I just made a list of all of those. But to your point, I'd meet people before 8:30. I would see in court people who didn't get authority. I would not be argumentative. My experience was most don't get approved right away. Most attorneys don't know what they're doing. 95% of court cases in LA County, the attorney has done one or less other cases in the last 2 years. So they might be smart, great attorneys, but they don't really know the probate process. They know the law, but not the administrative procedures. And that's the area I'm an expert in. And I find also pro se, people have their own legal matter really struggling. And I would offer to help them. And I just meet people and I go to the research room afterwards after the court ended, maybe 9:30, 9:45 or so. I'd be in the research room until 10:30 and meet people there as well. I would say I just took an approach kind of like farming. I would try to meet people. My goal was to meet 1.5 people a day, getting a name, address, phone number, email, and permission to stay in touch with them. And I just did that for about 2 years. See, does that answer your question?
Yes, I thought you were going more or less to get familiar with court and what happens. I now see how you turned it around to help people and giving yourself visibility. And you certainly didn't need to go that many times to figure out what happens there. So much more to your efforts than just what's court look like.
I would say this, every time I go, I learn a little bit. And in this day when I have an investor, even though I can do it on video or have a listing to sell, I go in person because you see things you don't get on the video. You see the judge sees you. I've gotten things approved by judges I don't think other agents can because number one, I knew the process. Number two, the judge has seen me around. So they know, and I also look like an attorney. When I walk in, I always wear a dark suit, white shirt, tie. I have a briefcase like attorneys do. I look like an attorney. I'm older. So I play that as much as I can. So I look the part to get the experience, but also get the acknowledgement from the judges and the attorneys as well. So that's part of the process, I think, too. Thank you. I love talking to you sometimes. Say, I heard you last week talking about foreclosures, and maybe this is something we can work on together. I have you my list to get a phone call sometime.
Yeah, just opening one today in Malibu. A sheik decided not to make his payments anymore.
How about that? Okay, let's see. Hand up, Winston Cole.
The last time I think you referenced a handbook, California Probate Handbook.
Yeah, there's a book on Amazon. It's like $100. It's not cheap. but I have the probate code. There you go. Is that the code?
The code was easy to get. This practitioner's handbook for probate real estate. She goes through, she does a good job, and she does it in layman's terms. And yeah, you can go read the code. I keep that printed. But this was an easy, good read.
And that's great. I've read every book I can find on probate. And I think if you want to be an expert, you want to learn all of it. This is the probate code in California. And I think that agents don't know the rules. And they'll say something because they've seen it done. And to be honest, attorneys don't know the rules, the law on some of these things related to commission. And to be honest, with respect to judges, sometimes they don't because they've been doing it a certain way for a long time. So there are cases where I've made more commission because I was entitled to by the law. And when they argued the point, I purposely bring the book so the attorney and judge know I have a code book and I read out the book. And I copy the page, download it online and such. But there's something more impressive. Having the book is like a Perry Mason moment that I enjoy. Now this is California, but I recommend anybody in any state, get your code book, learn it, read it. Read the relevant sections. Not all of it's relevant, but the parts that are relevant. Okay, Robert asked a question. Most probate courts have a calendar you can look at online. Robert, what county are you in?
Lee County, Florida.
Lee County, Florida. What's the biggest city in Lee County?
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers. The one thing I would recommend any agent to do is find what is online in your county and master that. Just Google probate Lee County, Florida. And whatever is there, I would check it out in detail and master that. Many have calendars, many have notes. We can actually look into the cases. So if you subscribe to data, you may have to look it up by the court case number. In some cases you don't. You can find the cases and then cross-reference into the notes. Every county is different. Like in California, LA County's software is in some Northern County states, but it's not the same. Orange County is totally different than neighboring counties. I don't know Lee County, Florida, but I would guess there's some good information there. I'll give you an example in LA County. You have the state law, and then you have the county rules of the court that the presiding judge of the county writes. So, for example, in LA County, if you list a probate and it's going to get court confirmed, you can't have a commission rate higher than 5% if it's single family. If it's land, it can be 10%. And so that's an important distinction to know for whatever reasons. But that's only when the court confirmation is required. That's not limited on regular listings, which is interesting. You can charge more if you want court confirmation, but you're limited to 5% for the more difficult court confirmation listings. But that's how it is in LA County. It's good to know that. And you regularly see agents listed 6%. I saw somebody at 8% one time. And just watch the judge laugh because it's right there on the attorney should know it because it's in the local rules. But and to answer your question, I don't know Lee County, Florida specifically. And I'd say come back and report back. I'd love to hear from you. Great. I think the name was John. If you're so far, how would you change your strategy in light of probate court not willing to allow public in due to COVID? Great question. So how would I change my strategy? And I'll say this, whatever I'm allowed to do in the court, I don't know what it's like. You're in Dallas, I guess that's Tarrant County, Texas. I would say whatever county you're in nationally, I would find out what you're allowed to do and do what you're allowed to do. Now, of course, be safe, be helpful, all those things. But if you're the only one that goes to court, you're the one the judge sees, the only one that's the attorneys are going to see. To me, it's a tremendous advantage. If you're the only one that knows the process and procedure, that's a tremendous advantage. So I would figure out to take advantage of whatever opportunity there is to be court, number one. Number two, I would also learn about the video process. In our court in LA County, they used to charge for video. Now it's free if you're party or you're related to party or witness and so on. It doesn't cost anything. So it used to be when I would represent buyers or sellers, I would arrange for the video, and I would pay for it and give them the links and give them a trial run and make sure they do that. I would still, and I still do, even though it's free, set the client up, get them pre-registered, have them log in and make sure the software is working ahead of time. You don't want your client not to go log in. So I don't know what's available in your county.
I got some pushback about trying to get into the court because they didn't want anybody except for attorneys and the PRs in there. But they do put all the cases on YouTube. So I do have that they come to me and I subscribe and I see them. But I was intrigued about your method as far as making contact and positioning yourself as an authority with people who are actually attorneys and judges and so forth. And so I was asking, how would you tweak that strategy a little bit in terms of for us that are maybe not able to get into the court to see them, but still want to let them know that we're experts?
So I'll give you one strategy I used, which is I looked very closely at the properties coming up for confirmation, and I try to find investors to bid on those properties. And those are two things for me. Number one, if they won the property, it was a sale, I got paid on. And maybe it was a fix and flip and I got paid out. So that's good business. But second, of all the kind of property they buy, one at court was more valuable to me because I'm in front of the judges and attorneys. Whereas normally I'm not a buyer's agent. I don't normally look for properties to bring to investors. And when COVID shut down the court, I was very aggressively doing that then as well. So I was one of the first agents to go into court and see what it looked like. And I remember the Bar Association had another agent who was an expert. She's actually very good, does a lot of business. But talking about what court was like in the COVID era, she didn't know. She had never been to court. The few times she had listings, she came in via video. But I've been there. I've seen what goes on. And that was a big advantage for me trying to buy some properties, represent some clients. But I would think about building my business that got me in court as much as possible. Maybe work with pro pers and they allow you in. I'll tell you this. So you got to play with what you got. You got to play the cards you're dealt. And so I would look at your county and figure out what opportunities there are and play with the bar association meetings, online bar association meetings. We have a law library in LA County that has classes. There are different ways you can look to get involved with those people. But going to court specifically, I can't really answer it other than LA County. And in LA, I would say I would look for every opportunity to get in the courtroom when I had the chance to do it. Interesting, I had a judge, I was a witness on a case. I was actually hired as an expert witness, who said that he rather people not come to court because he could hear them better and he could see their facial expressions, whereas in court, they had to wear a mask and it's hard to see. So it was interesting he said that, but still, I would try to get in court anytime I can, just to meet people and see people. On one hand, there's way less people. On the other hand, I was the only real estate agent in the building. And that was, to me, good news. So does that help a little bit? Okay, good. Stephanie Worley has a question.
I actually had a response to Jayhawk. So after being on calls with Bill over the last couple of weeks and looking at his YouTube channel, what I decided to do was go to the Bar Association mixers and try to find an attorney every month to feature on my YouTube channel and just start really building up that YouTube channel and putting myself out there as a probate expert in the area. So as opposed to trying to get into courts and be seen, the only way we can really be seen is virtually. Also, like the meetup events that they have in your area that are usually Zooms is a really good way, I feel like, to find attorneys and connect with them that will, and just feature them and make them want to work with you. Say, hey, I want to do an interview with you on my channel. And that really seems to have worked well over the last couple of weeks for me.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. I would agree 100%. Of course, I'm agreeing with what 20. The part you added as well. I went from doing so much live stuff to doing YouTube, and it's been an important part of my business. And I think that attorneys in the States see me, have a chance to evaluate, am I an expert or not? And I'd say if you're not an expert, learn material so you can be, and talk about who you are, or interview experts. And I think the interview experts is going to make you look better. They're just asking questions and be involved in the process. So excellent. Okay, who else has a question regarding probate business? So what are we doing to generate more leads? What are we doing to talk to more people? And how can I help you with that?
I'm going to share something real quick here, Bill. So I've been in communication with a guy who's the nephew of the decedent. And shout out to Selena. The property is in foreclosure. She sent it over to me, I guess. Anyway, and the situation with his, it's similar to the listing we currently have. The situation is that the occupant, it's a duplex, and the occupant who's in the property where he is now living as well, the occupant's been there for 44 years. And so in her mind, it's her house. And she has gone around him and to his brother, to his cousin, saying, hey, I tell him I want to buy the house. And she's been telling him I'll buy the house. And then she said, hey, I'll take, when it was in foreclosure or with the foreclosure situation, she said, hey, I'll go ahead and get you a loan to get you out of the foreclosure. And of course, I explained to him, I said, she may be trying to get a back door to prevent anyone else from buying it so she can buy it by doing that. In any case, he's at a point where in all of our conversations, he's ready to list with me. He still needs to get his letters, but he's pretty much, we've already had 2 conversations. We're having another appointment because we're talking about doing renovations. And he's just so happy with me that he's, oh, you're going to list it. So but the challenge he's having is he wants to do renovations and he wants her out of there because he does have some plumbing stuff going on underneath. And so he's going to have to do some permits and stuff. It's going to need to be vacant. And he's concerned that he can't get her out of it because she technically isn't a tenant. The decedent essentially is like they were sister friends. She said, yeah, come stay here. But the reason why he doesn't really want to sell it to her and the reason why he's apprehensive of giving her cash for keys or anything is because she is an insurance broker and wrote an insurance policy for $100,000 for the decedent and named herself as the beneficiary and got paid out on it. And when he was trying to find out if there was life insurance, he went to a friend of his who's in Canada who does insurance. He looked it up and he said, oh, they already have a claim filed. And that's how he found out that she'd written this policy and that she was the beneficiary. So it's a pretty, nasty situation. And I just bring this up to say that sometimes they're just really nasty situations with other parties involved. And it can be very challenging, particularly in California, when you have an occupant who may not necessarily be a tenant per se. They may have previously been given verbal permission to be there, but they aren't paying any rent. So it's not like you can evict them for non-payment of rent. So there's challenges with that. And it's a very precarious situation to try to get it. He has to do the renovations to get it to sell for the highest price he can to satisfy the mortgage, but and all the heirs and everything, but it's challenging. And so I just bring this up to say it's another interesting and challenging experience I've been through with probate.
I think I've listened to Chad's calls for years, and I've listened to people across the country for years. And the thing that I'm really clear on is that every market is different. And we're in LA, the largest, marginally over Atlanta, but also we're the poorest county in America. We have the highest percentage of homelessness, and California has the highest percentage of impoverished people. And probate in California really skews low income. And I think also our laws in California, and LA in particular, really encourage this. And so I think this is mostly or more commonly a Los Angeles problem and a California problem. And I don't think it's as common. Actually, I'm just curious on the call. Is there anybody on the call outside of California that has the same? Okay, great. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're in that house, it is almost impossible to get them out legally without their approvals. What's it like? So you're in Georgia and Savannah.
I've been working with a girl for almost 2 months. Then the evictions have gone to court twice. They failed. We can't get this guy out. Her son passed away, and her son had a roommate, and the roommate will not move out, and he's not paying the mortgage. He's not paying anything that needs to be paid. She's on a fixed income, so she can't hire an attorney. It's just a whole big mess, and she's about to go into foreclosure. And we're trying to find a solution. So really, unless you can hire an attorney at this point or hire an eviction specialist, we haven't found one. But she wants to list today or pair with an investor. And so it's money sitting on the table, and it's a real bummer. And I haven't figured out a way to help her yet. I'm still working.
Stephanie, I talked to one of my attorneys. I have this I recently connected with him, a great attorney who covers all kinds of, he's general practice with his firm in Beverly Hills. He answered the phone. We got on a call yesterday because I'm trying to help this guy out. I said, what are his options? He said cash for keys, but he also reminded me, he said, and I reminded him too. And he said, there is that one piece that if a buyer takes it with tenant occupied, they take the property tenant occupied, a new owner can give that buyer notice if they're going to use it as a primary residence. So I know that doesn't help with investors because investors aren't keeping it as a primary residence, unless they choose to purchase it that way and they're able to somehow finagle that they're putting someone in as making it a primary residence. Because when you do that, you can give that occupant notice that they have to move, and that in LA anyway, in the city of LA specifically, is a reason to justifiably evict someone, or it's not just cause.
I think what you're saying though is it might be legally a reason to. Nobody is able to evict anybody in the city of LA today because you're buying a property for primary residence. You still have to legally, you can't just tell the guy to leave and walk out the door. You still have to go through eviction. Today, eviction court's still not open. Won't open until next year. Today, still, there's attorneys who are sitting in eviction courts in LA who will counsel these people. And one thing they'll tell them for sure is request a jury trial, which there are no jury trials in eviction court in LA today. So you're talking at a minimum 6 to 9 months.
So yes, exactly, Bill. You absolutely want. It is an avenue, but it still is going to take a very long.
Let me finish. But also, if you're buying a primary residence and financing it, you can't do that unless you're going to be in the property within 30 days. You have to have a rent back or the tenant out. And the lender's not going to approve financing where there's a tenant there that you're going to go through an eviction process. So legally, you're right, but practically, it's impossible today. It's not possible in the city of LA to buy a property and evict the tenant and buy it for primary. Unless you can pay cash, And then you're going to wait at least 9 months to get the guy out. And most buyers aren't going to be willing to wait that time. But that's the challenge we're in today. I see Jesse says Chicago's pretty bad. I think this is more of a city than it is overall in the country. And that's why I'm sure some of you are like in more remote counties, like, what the heck are these guys talking about? But I would say, certainly in LA, there is a war between tenants and owners, and it's ugly in person. That's why I would never own one property in Los Angeles.
Are there contracts involved with cash for keys? So if we could come up with, if this lady could come up with money, how do we know that the guy's still actually going to leave? So she said,
You don't.
You don't.
You don't until out the door. You don't. And you give the money outside and change the locks and hope they'll break back in the property. Now, if they break in, again, technically that's break in, and that's a little different situation. But there are people who are skilled at that. And I'm just saying, I've been in this business for a while. Every year gets a little harder. Every year, I had people who did cash for keys 10 years ago in the short sale process. It's a different game today. These people were militant. There's more money at stake. And I've made this prediction. You're going to hear about crimes where people who are basically criminals will buy properties. Like in LA, I have a listing right now for 1.275. That property, if the tenant was out, would easily sell for 135. And they might let it, if you had to sell it, you had to sell it with a tenant in there for about 1.1. You're talking about $250,000. There are people who will do bad things to you for that kind of money. It's just a matter of time till we hear about that crime happening. I haven't heard it yet, but the gap and that money goes out. People do anything for that kind of money. I'll share with you. I have one right now. We have a list. I have to be careful what I say here, but if you find that, what happens sometimes is these people who stay over, not tenants, the ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, ex-whatever, the mail goes to the house. One of the things you would investigate is, did they do anything illegal? And if they did they say take checks after the seed passed and write checks? And if they did, that's a crime. So there's companies that will approach that person and use that as leverage to get them out of the property is one way. There's vendors. It used to be cash for keys people. They don't need it. It used to be you would just have the courage, knock on the door, talk to somebody, sign a contract, give them something up front, you come back a few weeks later. It's a different ballgame today. These people are, and look, it's tougher living in LA. It's more expensive. They're faced with being homeless. I have compassion for these people. I also have compassion for my estate and my client. But to answer your question, this is the challenge. I'll say also, this is the kind of problem that if you figure out how to solve in your area, you're going to make a lot of money. So I'm working on this problem every day. We're going to start every day to find vendors who can help with this process, would be attorneys, or there's a landlord representative company that does these things a little more aggressively than in the past. But definitely
I just wanted to quickly mention, thank you, Bill, for sharing that. It is challenging in our market. And I've seen in the chat that some others are facing similar challenge. Really what it comes down to is, in my opinion, there has to be something that is changed at the legislative level, either the city level, the county level, whatever is the highest, most stringent jurisdiction, to allow for there to be some ruling beyond what exists now. Yeah. Because with exactly this situation, what we're in, what Stephanie's talking about, it almost becomes near impossible, like you're saying. And the last point I wanted to make, Stephanie, you mentioned that your client, that she's been through this a few times and now she doesn't really have the money to pay for an attorney. Maybe there's an investor you can bring to the table to help with some of that, to move this process forward, to get someone out to help her pay for an attorney. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there as a brainstorming a solution for her, but either that, or like I said, having the new buyer buy with tenant occupied and they carry the burden, and it may take them longer, but that, to me right now, I think that tends to be the best solution. I had a buyer on our current listing. I had a buyer who submitted an offer. He suggested that. He said, we would do it, but we're going to come in with a lower offer. And he's an investor. This is the challenge. Is that going to be fiduciarily responsible from a real estate agent perspective to the client? If we say we have a buyer for it that's willing to take it tenant occupied, but they aren't going to pay full price. So it starts to hurt on both sides of it. Hopefully legislation will change in our market.
Trump says he gets in Fort Myers, Florida. Eamon says we have a contract that's almost useless. The people you can cash for keys are likely to work with you on a contract. We had in Boston and we had pushback 4 or 5 times. We couldn't push very hard. They would just be petty. Yeah, it's a challenge. Anton says the vendors, the mafia. I don't disagree. I think that's what it's going to look like. If you really think about where is this headed, how long can it go on? How much more can it go before people will organize criminal activity? And if I was a organized criminal and we're about the law. I go through the MLS, look through these properties, make offers, and I would get the tenant out. I don't think it's difficult to figure out where they are, what's going on. It is inevitable. It's just, I think, absolutely inevitable.
Bill, if they violate their contract, shouldn't you still be able to get them out? Because I have a friend. No, don't laugh. I have a friend who had a single family detached home in Palmdale, and his tenant stopped paying the rent. And this was last year. He got them out because he drove up to the property. They had put a fence up that was against the contract, and they also dog, and they did a number of things. So he got them evicted. That was his home. He said it took him maybe about 4 or 5 months to do it, but he used Dennis Block. So he successfully got them out.
Dennis Block is great. He's good for standard evictions. Use him for a long time. But here's what I tell you. There are more and more. At some point, you say he got him out. You can go to court today, and if the party doesn't know to ask for a jury trial and get to a judge and you get a hearing, you're going to get them evicted. But today, there are law school graduates, nonprofits put in eviction courts to try to grab those tenants to say, hey, we can defend you for free. By the way, we're going to require a jury trial. And if they do that today, there is nothing you can do for 9 months. The court isn't open. There's no jury trials for evictions right now. So your client I want to say got lucky because, you have to put the effort in, and congratulations, the son was smart enough to try, you got to give it a shot. But once they require a jury trial, there's nothing you can do to get them out. There is nothing. You can't call the sheriffs because you're going to win the case. You need the court to order it. So it's very challenging today. And there's more and more what I would call militant tenants. And number one. Number two, there's more and more militant nonprofits who are empowering and engaging these tenants become militant. And it's becoming more and more common. It was rare occasionally 5-10 years ago. And I don't know if it's a function of politics or the times. I don't really know. But here's what I do know. Almost every tenant now, and I won't say this, you'll talk to them, they'll be reasonable, they'll agree with you verbally, and then they'll tell a friend, if I say, well, you don't have to do that. You can hire this organization and you'll never have to pay rent again. So I would just caution, I'm not saying it's impossible. And if I'll ask anybody on the phone call who's got somebody out, Eamon, your hands up.
Yeah, just to offer some insight on this, I had a similar situation on a 9-unit in Jamaica Plain, Boston. And I found that really I'm personally not equipped to handle this kind of thing. So I guess more of a suggestion, if anybody's finding that, maybe they're not capable of dealing with the tenants themselves directly and they're willing to at least try to do something. I found that for any situation, it's been incredibly valuable for me to have other wholesalers and other investors in my area that are more equipped to deal with these things. I didn't want to start chasing around tenants in my early stages of wholesaling and off-market properties. So I called some wholesalers that I knew. And what I told them was, listen, I got a really problematic property. I don't think I'm going to be able to push this through to closing. But if you can, let's partner up in JV on something like this. Really, some of these people that helped me, a couple of them that helped me on this deal, they've become some of my closest advocates in all of my wholesale operations, in all of my sales and dispositions. If you are personally not equipped, one avenue is finding other wholesalers in your area. They're abundant. You'll be able to find some really good ones in pretty much every major market. And they might be willing to do the groundwork and partner up with you to get a deal done.
Good point. There's other people who might take on that effectively. And I think as an agent, now I'm not speaking as an investor here, but as an agent, it's not my job to sell the property for what the majority of people think it should sell for. It's my job to get the best outcome for my client. And sometimes you'll find buyers who are foolish and bite off more than they can chew. If I get the property sold off and they take on that problem, that's their problem. But you're right, Eamon, if you can find somebody who's willing to take on that challenge, whether it be a wholesaler or investor or as an agent, you're able to market it and get someone else to buy it that way. Those are outcomes to look into for sure. Okay. Any other questions, challenges we have regarding either tenant situations or anything else that we have put together?
Bill, I'll ask a question. That's okay.
Sure.
Do you know or have you heard of anyone that's maybe had success? I don't know what the consequences are over there as far as just force evicting people, wait for them to leave the house and then go change the locks. Right. I'm assuming once you displace them from their house, if they have nowhere else to be, they'll be under such tremendous amount of pressure to find suitable living situation that they might not even have time to try to fight you to get back in this particular home.
So obviously there's legal implications, and I'm not an attorney, but I will say I have a client who, to avoid a tenant, he used Airbnb and had a person come into a furnished ADU and basically announce, hey, I'm not going to pay you a penny, I'm going to live here for free. And so we had this landlord representative company who said they don't really have the right to be there. And you have the opportunity to, once they're out of the property, just lock them out and then take their personal property. In this case, it was furnished. It was Airbnb, so it was furnished already. So all the person had was a suitcase with it. And you'd give it back to him. And like you said, he'll be under pressure to find someplace, and you might have to offer him a cash settlement to get him out. Obviously, there's laws about all that. I'm not advising anybody what to do, but I will say I do think that what you're saying is people are going to do it. There are landlords who are going to be desperate to get somebody out of the property that they just spent $50,000 fixing up in this case, and expect $2,000 a month in rent. Find out the guy's going to pay them nothing, and it's just aggravating. In this case, the guy was just sort of blamed about it. He didn't even try to say, "I don't have a job or I can't afford to pay rent." So that's good knows. But again, I think the challenge is that once if you're going to go to court, every area is different. But in LA today, once they request jury trial, you're talking months and months. Stephanie's hand.
Okay. So I just had an idea I thought I'd throw out there for some of you guys. I'm working with a couple right now. They're relocating. They're an older couple, and I'm working it as a probate. I'm connecting them with different vendors. They're elderly. They can't afford to move their stuff out of their house. They want to sell a lot of things, but they can't really get them sold themselves. And I am turning it into a probate referral to set up their end of life. But the idea that I have for you guys, one thing that I'm doing with them is that I'm doing an open house yard sale kind of thing. But I think it's a really cool way to get clients in. So we're actually going to put a price tag on everything that we're selling, and then we're advertising an estate sale / yard sale open house and doing it 2 Saturdays in a row. I think it's a really cool way to meet clients. And it's a really good way to show people that you're willing to go above and beyond. It's an extra hour of your time to come in and put some price stickers on things to make a sale and to gain extra clients. So it's a really cool idea I thought I'd throw out there for you guys.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I've seen that done quite a bit. I think probate, there's so many ways to attack the market. And those of the larger cities, there's so many ways to attach the ginormous real estate market. And I think it's one of those things where if you really learn that business and you say it's no big deal, put stickers on. I don't have stickers. I don't really know what things could pay for. But we did a few open houses. And I think it's about really whatever it is you're doing, develop some expertise, develop some skill, get some tools to be more efficient about it. How do you advertise it online to get people to come to the garage sale and then hopefully turn them into leads for buyers or sellers of property? So I think it's a great idea, Stephanie. And again, it's just another way to work the business. There's more ways to generate business in probate, I think, than you ever going to work in your life. You just have to be creative and find, I think the most important thing is find a marketing strategy that's authentic to you. The reason I went to court is I like going to court. I like dressing up. I like talking to attorneys. I like talking in front of the judges. If you don't do what I do, what Stephanie is talking about with open houses or other methods to get business, be able to find something that's authentic to you. Okay, we got about 2 minutes left here. Any last questions? Nina?
This is actually a question for Stephanie on that estate sale situation or estate sale, garage sale. I have a client who was wanting to do their estate sale before they get it ready for listing. And I was going to have them use an estate sale company. Of course, they charge their fee. Do you think, is it just you who's going to be handling that? Or are you working with them to help them do it? They're like, you're all going to do it as a team, you and the sellers. How are you facilitating that? I'm just concerned about if I were to offer that up to save the money, how much of my time do I have to give to do that, to facilitate doing it? I might bring in a new agent to help me with it maybe, but I'm just curious how you're facilitating.
So the new agent is a great idea. I'm on a team. And so our team members, we all do open houses together. So we can manage the influx. Our goal is to have 20 to 30 people at every open house that we do. Obviously for one agent, that's a lot to handle. So our goal is to do them all together. And so what I am doing for this particular situation is over the next 3 weeks, I have carved out 2 hours on 2 different afternoons that the husband and I will go through the house, decide what they want to sell, and put a value on it. And doing that 2 hours on this afternoon prior to the open house, I'm going to put a sticker on it that says for sale X amount of dollars. And then my teammates and I will manage the sales as well as him during the open.
So there's different ways to work that. Personally, I'm not going to hold an open house. I'm not going to go to the estate sale. I have vendors I work with. And so I'll give my client, the name of the vendor I've had success with in their area. Grayson & Son in Southern California does a great job. They charge a fee. That's what it costs. I'm not in the business. So to me, the fee is reasonable. Of course, the client can do it on their own and save that money if that's what they want to do. There's online versions where the customer goes around and takes pictures and puts prices on it. We do it online as well. Chad does a great job, I think, of creating the importance of having good vendor relationships and bringing them as tools in your toolbox. But what I don't want to do is sign up to do those jobs. I want to sign up to vet and bring good vendors that can help my clients solve their problems. So different approaches. If you're working open houses, I would imagine estate sales are a great way to hold a unique open house. So you just have to make sure again, the marketing should be authentic to how you want to build your business. Make sure it's for you. Okay, I think we answered all the questions.
I want to agree with you. That's all I was going to say. Is I just want to agree with you. I don't think it's something that you want to do with every client every time because it's something that's going to overwhelm your time. Now, this particular client can't afford for a vendor to come in is the reason that I chose to go this route. But it's definitely not something that I would market to you that you do all the time.
Marketing is about finding what is authentic for you, what works for you, and make sure it's consistent with where you run your business. So don't just copy something else because it sounds cool or interesting. Make sure it's part of your overall plan. So, okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Again, I'm Bill Gross, and I'm one of Chad Corbett's students. I've been through the Probate Mastery Training Program and on these calls regularly. Chad holds this call weekly. Now, we won't have it next week because next week is Thanksgiving week. So we won't have the call next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks, Tuesday, noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time call. And this gets recorded and put into the Facebook group as well. So if you missed it, you're welcome to go there. My name is Bill Gross. You're welcome to reach out to me if I can help. Bill, theLAProbateExpert.com or Bill EXP on social media, on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. If I can help answer questions, feel free to reach out. I can help in any way. So make it a great week. If I don't speak to you guys, have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks to those of you who participated, Stephanie, Nina, Anton, Jayhawk. It was nice meeting you and trying to help you guys. And I'm sure I left a couple of people off. Joanne, thank you for those who participated and make it a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.